guys, it's Ariana. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're going to be reading some more scary stories. So I'm sorry that I've been gone for so long. I was in Spain for the last 2 weeks, so I haven't had any content out because I didn't have time to film before I left, and a good YouTuber would have pre-filmed stuff, but like I usually film things, edit them, and post them like the same day. So I had nothing prepared, so I'm so sorry that I've been gone for so long, but I am back now, and I am ready to read some scary stories. So as per usual, I have my wicked candle in here setting the mood of caramel apple, and I do have my hot chocolate candle, which literally always makes my room smell like hot chocolate, and it's kind of like a bad thing because I'm constantly craving chocolate when I'm around this candle. It smells so good. But anyway, let's jump into the scary stories. So from the spoopy Cjades section, I have from the Reddit author Out of My Luck 96, and this one's titled The Thing in My Grandma's Room. When I was in my senior year of high school, I was living with my aunt and my uncle, which also consisted of my 10-year-old cousin and my grandmother. To give some understanding of the house layout, it was a 4-bedroom house. My room and my grandmother's room were right next to each other at the front end of the house by the street. My aunt and my uncle's room was at the far back of the house with my cousins next to theirs. During this time, my grandmother was starting her rougher stages of dementia. At random times of the day, she would cry or holler out of nowhere. When we would ask her what was wrong, she would forget all about it and carry on with whatever she was doing. That being said, it was no surprise when she started doing this at night in her sleep. With being the room next to hers, I would check on her throughout the night anytime she made a noise, as we would sleep with both of our doors open so I could hear her. One night, I was woken up by the usual hollering from my grandmother. I remember glancing at my alarm clock and seeing that it was almost 2 in the morning. I got up and I walked over to my grandma's room and I peeked in. Normally, I would see the street lights peeking in from behind the curtains, but this time I didn't. Thinking nothing of it, I went to reach in and flip the light switch on as my eyes began to adjust to the dark. It looked like something was standing in front of the 6-inch opening at the door. For some reason, my eyes wandered up to the door. When I did, I saw 2 red glowing orbs that I swear were eyes looking back at me. I panicked and I ran to my uncle and my aunt's room, and I threw myself on their bed, waking my uncle up. After explaining to him what I saw, he grabbed his work knife and I followed behind him as he walked back to my grandmother's room. My uncle quickly opened the door and flipped on the light. My grandmother was fast asleep and there was nothing else in the room with her. My uncle told me that I had just been groggy when I went to check on her and my mind was playing tricks on me. He told me to go back to bed and turned her light off. After shutting her door, he headed back to his own room. I was shutting my door back to how I had it when my grandmother started laughing in a way I could only describe was of an evil person or a possessed person. Keep in mind, I am in no way trying to make fun of my grandmother or anyone who has dementia or any similar illness that laugh or cry like this. From a bit down the hall, I heard my uncle whisper to himself the Lord's Prayer faintly as my grandmother laughed. After he finished the prayer, my grandmother stopped. I looked from my door into my grandmother's room, and this time I could see the street light peeking in and I could hear my grandmother snoring. Then I saw it again, the red eyes from under my grandmother's bed. I don't know what to do, so I closed my door fully and I went back to bed. With no more noises from my grandmother, I laid in bed all night, too scared to go to sleep. In the morning, my uncle and I told my aunt, as my grandmother was her mom. She said that we needed to cleanse her room and the house. My grandmother used to heavily believe in supernatural and everything tied to it because of her Native American ancestry. She also taught her kids how to protect themselves at a very young age. My grandmother was sitting on the couch watching QVC when we began, starting from my grandmother's room, then making her way throughout the house. When we got to where my grandmother was in the living room, she began to laugh again, the same way she did the night before. But this time, it got so bad, her face was turning red and she started stomping her feet. Not knowing what else to do, my aunt grabbed my grandmother's cup of water and splashed it on her face. My grandmother stopped and didn't even react to being wet. She just looked back at the TV and was watching QVC. Now, I don't know if this is paranormal or if my grandmother's illness, but I can't come up with anything that could explain the red eyes. I didn't see it once, I saw it twice, but it was enough to scare the crap out of me. My grandmother hasn't had any other outbursts or laughter like this since then, and I continue to check on my grandmother at night with no more issues. And that's their entire post. So holy crap, that is really scary. I'm glad that the cleansing ritual that you guys did worked, and that's really freaking scary. I'm so glad you haven't had any more occurrences because that is absolutely terrifying. And if you ever have an update and you want to share with us, please let me know and I will definitely read any more of your updates. But I'm hoping you guys are good now and you don't have any more issues. So the next one that I want to read is from the paranormal section. It's from the Reddit author Throw R Anon 143, and it's titled, "My mom brought home some furniture and I can hear them knocking." Sunday morning rolls around and my family and I get ready to head to the market as per our weekly ritual. When we arrive, we parked and head to the race course where the markets were held. We were walking around for about 30 minutes or so before my mom found an antique stall. She fell in love with a wooden TV unit. It was beautifully stained oak, with stained glass on the side cupboard doors and solid oak on the front cupboards. As soon as she saw it, she bought it instantly and got her now ex-husband to take it to her car. It was too heavy for any of me or my siblings and I to help, so we all ended up going to the car together. Once the unit was loaded in and my mom was satisfied it was well hidden and safe, we headed back to the stall as my mom had seen a bookcase and a chest that looked like it had been a set to the unit. We arrived back at the same spot, but the stall had disappeared. My mom asked the neighbor stalls if they knew where the antique stall had gone, and everyone said the same thing. There was no antique stall here. Defeated and confused, my mom decided that was it for the market and we headed home. First night, the unit we brought into the house, I heard loud knocking coming from the living room. It grew louder and only continued for about 30 seconds, but was enough to make me sleep under my blankets for the rest of the night at 30 degrees Celsius. So if you're not in Canada, 30 degrees Celsius is very hot. It's very, very hot. The morning after walking into the kitchen to get ready for school, feeling like death, I saw my older brother and my mom had similar tiredness as me. I was too tired to ask, but thankfully, my brother did it anyway, and come to find out that we both heard the exact same knocking from the night before, and it happened daily. 2 weeks later, it got worse. At around 2 or 3 in the morning, I saw a figure standing in my doorway, looking away from me. Took my chance and slipped under the blanket again. This continued happening, and the figure kept creeping closer and closer every night. 2 days later, my mom encountered a man in a wheelchair sitting at the end of her bed, staring at her and her ex, watching them sleep. On the same night, my older brother saw a woman float past his room at the back of the house, facing the backyard with only her upper half. The window was only on the top 1/3 of the wall, so about 3 to 4 meters above the ground. My mom's ex didn't believe her until he woke up one day in the middle of the night. This has now been about 3 days after my brother's sighting, and that was the final straw for all of us. We found a new rental within 2 days and left everything behind. To whoever moved in after us, we hope you made it. We hope you were able to stay hidden. We hope you were able to stay quiet. And that's how they ended the story. So I'm not entirely sure if that one is a fictional story or a true story, but that is fucking terrifying. Holy crap. Jesus Christ. That's why I'm kind of reluctant to buy antique things, because you never know what could be attached to them. You don't know. And I'm a big chicken and I'm scared of everything. So no thanks. The next story that I want to read is from the ghost story section, and it's from the Reddit author My Darling Darkness, and it's titled, "My Parents' Dream House Turned into a Haunted Nightmare." I was born in the early 90s. My parents were married in 1991 and I was born in 1992. For the first bit of my parents' marriage, they lived in a tiny apartment that needed a lot of work. When my mom found out she was pregnant with me, finding a better home with more space moved to the top of their to-do list. My mom was about 7 months along with me, and every house they looked at had fallen through, until one. The one. It was located in the middle of nowhere in our little town, but that's exactly what my parents wanted. It was a 2, could be 3 bedroom house, and it had 1 bathroom. It had 2 enclosed porches, a massive kitchen and dining area, and a living room. The best part was the rent was just barely over the amount my parents were paying monthly for this tiny rundown apartment. While this wasn't a beachside luxury mansion, it was everything my parents wanted and then some. Of course, they jumped at the offer. It did not take long after moving in for the weirdness to start. Activity made itself known pretty much from day one. The experience in particular I can remember even though I was only about 3 or 4 years old. Halloween has always been a major holiday for my family. My parents decided to host their first annual Halloween party in the house. It was a huge success. Tons of family and friends attended. They had music, food, games, costumes. I remember I was Baby Bop from Barney, and the best part, a fake haunted house in the garage that sat apart from the rest of the house. After it was over, my mom's 2 sisters and her middle sister's boyfriend decided to sleep over instead of making their hour-long drive back to their house so late. My parents made the living room floor, which was between my parents' room and what was considered my room, as cozy as they could. About 2 a.m., we said our goodnights, and I followed my parents into their room to crash. as I was absolutely terrified of my own room. I remember waking up to the sound of someone knocking on my parents' closed bedroom door. My dad was dead to the world, so my mom got up and answered. I heard the frantic voice of my older aunt asking where my dad was. My mom opened the bedroom door more so she could see my dad completely knocked out in the bed. My aunt's voice became even more pleading as she asked if they could all move into their room and sleep on the floor. My mom agreed, as my aunt swore she would explain in the morning. I remember how excited I was to see my aunt and my future uncle move their bedding into the small bedroom to sleep. It was my first sleepover in my young mind. Come morning, or later in the morning I should say, we would find out exactly what had happened. My aunt said after everyone had went to bed and the lights were out, they started hearing movement coming from my room. At first, it sounded like footsteps walking around the room. Then it started sounding like someone was moving stuff around. It got louder, like someone was digging through a toy box. Both my aunt and my future uncle were on alert listening to this when creepy music started playing. They realized it was the music from my dollhouse and would play only when you pushed a special button. They were convinced my dad was behind this, as he's notorious for playing pranks on people. That's when my aunt ran and knocked at my parents' bedroom door to see if it was somehow his doing. When my mom showed her that he was sound asleep, she said it felt like her heart stopped, as she could still hear movement coming from my room on the other side of the living room. After this, the experiences in the house got worse, and it was a very long time before my aunt and my uncle would ever visit again. Just days after this, my parents said I came running to them late one evening as I was completely inconsolable. I said in between sobs that there was a mean face glaring at me through the living room window, the window being in the same area my family had ran from. These are just a few experiences from the Wicked House. I have plenty more I'd love to share in the future. So I definitely want to read more of your stories because your stories are so scary, and oh my goodness, I'm gonna go check your page right now to see if you have any more updates on that. But no, that's the last one that I've seen on the haunted house. I will definitely reach out to this author and see if they have any more stories that they would like to share. And if they want to directly message me more of your stories, I would love to read them. But we're at the 15-minute mark, so I think this is where I'm gonna end the video. So I think this was a nice first video back. So I will definitely read some more stories and I will post another video this week. So again, thank you so much for being patient with me while I was gone on my trip. I hope you guys are having a good week. I know it's only Tuesday, but it literally feels like it should be the weekend already because it's like my first week back after a holiday and it's been the longest week ever and it's literally only Tuesday. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below for more content like this. If you guys have any scary stories, let's not meet stories, paranormal stories, or just creepy stories in general that you guys want to send to me and have me read on the channel, feel free to email me or message me on Instagram. All of my information is pinned in a comment down below. And if you guys made it to the end of the video, please leave me your favorite Halloween emoji and I will make sure I reply to everyone, or at least heart react to everyone that leaves me a comment. Leaving me a comment helps boost my video in the algorithm, so it makes it so that more people can see my channel and makes it so I can do these videos more often. So thank you so much for watching and I will see you guys at the next video. Bye.